The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 9th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. The law indeed was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is only the Son, himself God, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. In one of the Peanut comic strips, Charlie Brown and Lucy, they're talking about life. Maybe even they're talking about God, about theology in their own way. And Lucy says to Charlie Brown, on the cruise ship of life, some people put their deck chairs at the bow, looking ahead, trying to see where they are going. Others put their chairs at the stern, looking back, trying to see where they've been. So where do you put your deck chair, Charlie Brown? And Charlie Brown replies, Lucy, I can't even get my deck chair unfolded. Yes. How true, right? There's something honest about that. Because all of us, in one way or another, are trying to find our place on what Lucy calls the great cruise ship of life. Some of us are looking back, trying to make sense of where we've come from. Some of us are looking out ahead, hoping to catch a glimpse of our future and where we're going. And some of us, if we're honest, aren't even sure how to get started. We're searching for meaning, searching for direction, searching for something or someone to answer a deeper question. What is this all about? And beneath that question, even if we don't always say it out loud, I think we're searching for God. We're searching for relationship and for belonging. But like Charlie Brown, many people aren't sure how to get started, how to open up the question. It's not that their wondering isn't there. It's not that their yearning, their longing isn't real. It's that we don't quite know how to unfold the chair. And I don't think that's too far from the world the Apostle Paul walks into when he arrives in Athens. Anybody in the sanctuary been to Athens? A few folks? Yeah. And so maybe you've even done some of those great walks through the footsteps of Paul when you were there. But when Paul steps into Athens, he sees a city full of people searching. People who in their own way have set up their deck chairs in all kinds of directions, towards all kinds of gods. Some are looking here, some are looking there, some are trying to make sure they haven't missed anything at all. And right in the middle of Athens, Paul spots one altar. An altar with the inscription, to the unknown God. It's almost as if the Athenians with that altar are saying, just in case we've missed something with all the other altars we've created, to all the other gods that we've named, just in case there's a God we have not yet met, in case there's a God we've missed, just in case there is more. And there's something honest to me about that altar to an unknown God. It tells a truth that for all our searching, for all our wondering, we do not quite have God figured out. If we're willing to admit it, that's happening not just in Athens, it's happening here too, here in the broader sense. Fredericksburg, our country, the world, people are searching. We're not so different than those Athenians. Now, we may not build altars out of stone and label them to an unknown God, but we do build lives carefully, thoughtfully, sometimes anxiously, trying to answer their same questions. What matters most? What can I trust? What will hold when everything else feels uncertain? We search and hope in all different ways, in our work, in our relationships, in our convictions and commitments, in our hopes about the future, and in our faith. We grasp for complete understanding, all while knowing we can never fully figure it out. Even our best efforts to talk about God fall short of articulating God's fullness. There will always be something unnamed, something we can't quite put into words or comprehend, a quiet wondering, a lingering question, a sense that we do not fully see or fully know. And so when Paul sees that altar to an unknown God, he doesn't get angry about it. He doesn't rebuke the Athenians for it. Instead, he sees it as a bridge to proclaiming the God he knows to be true, the God he has encountered, the God he has seen. Paul says, "What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you." And that's when everything begins to shift in the story. Paul starts to speak, not about a distant or a hidden God locked up in a little toy treasure chest, but about a God who is already near. The God who made the world and everything in it does not live in shrines built by human hands, Paul says. God cannot be contained. God is not something we build or manage or define. And more than that, Paul says, God himself gives to mortals life and breath and all things. God is the source of life. And then Paul says something remarkable, something that the Athenians have probably never heard before. Paul says, God is not far off. God is not far off from each one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being. Not far, not waiting somewhere at the end of our searching, but already here, already sustaining, already present, already holding our lives even when we don't recognize it. And then the story turns in a deeper way, because at first it sounds like Paul is simply helping the Athenians complete their search, fill in the gaps, give them the right name for what they've been reaching toward, almost like he's going to hand them the new inscription for the next altar. But Paul is doing something more. He is shifting the direction of the whole story, because the truth is not only that we are searching for God, the deeper truth, the good news, is that God is searching for us, for you. Before we even begin asking or reaching, God is already near. Before we try to name God, God has already spoken the word. before we wonder if there is something more, God has already come closer than we ever imagined. And this is where Paul builds the biggest part of the bridge. He speaks of a time when all people everywhere will experience a change. Now God is calling all people to turn in a new way. And Paul actually proclaims that God has chosen to turn to us in a new way. God has moved God's deck chair to where we are. God has come to us. God has drawn near in a new and decisive way. And Paul points to a person, to Jesus, to the one through whom God will judge the world with justice. And then he says the word that changes everything: resurrection. God has raised Jesus from the dead. The unknown God becomes known, not as an idea, not as something we finally figure out and understand, but as a person who comes to us in human history. In Jesus, God is no longer hidden behind our questions. In Jesus, God steps into our world, into human life, into human struggle, suffering, and even death, and beyond it. On the cross, God unfolds God's arms to meet us in our brokenness, and in the resurrection, God meets us with new life. Suddenly, that altar to an unknown God is no longer needed, because God has made himself known, not in a way we control, but in a way we receive. Not because we found God, but because God has found us. The Athenians built an altar to an unknown God. But here, today, we are given something different. Not an altar to what we do not know, but a table where Christ makes himself known in bread, in cup. And here's the promise: even if we don't know how to unfold our deck chairs or where to place them, even if we are still searching or aren't sure how to get started, Christ comes, and in his mercy, he turns us again and again to face him, the one in whom we live and move and have our being, the one who has found you. Amen.